When peace shall over all the earth its ancient splendors fling, and the whole world send back the sound which now the angels sing.
I love this time of year. And as we begin this Advent season, we truly are blessed to be together to enjoy the celebration of this awakening, the life of Advent. Now, I wanted to approach this Advent season with a little added understanding. Because rather than just talking about hope and faith and peace and joy, again, we'll just see it in some different light. And maybe bring it to how can it inform me today? So our talk title today is Standing in Faith, Metaphysical Advent. Now, metaphysical is, of course, that study of looking beyond what is physical. Or one way of describing it might be like it's that space between words in a sentence. It's that spiritual nature. Of course, everything that God is metaphysical. And this is no small thing. As we go forward, out in the foyer, there's a packet of information for you. It has the Unity Advent pamphlet, which is just wonderful this year, called A Christmas to Remember. And then there's a calendar and there's a journal with some stickers. So pick one up and sign your name on the list. And this actually, we're going to start with, when you're doing a metaphysical interpretation, you look at sacred literature. This is from the Bible. This is actually Luke, this chapter about the birth of Jesus. And this is chapter 2, verse 6 through 7. The time came for her to deliver her child. And she gave birth to her firstborn son, and wrapped him in bands of cloth, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inn. Now, when you're doing this study, you look at okay, we've got these words, we've got this sacred text, then we can look into what's logical about this situation. Well, Mary and Joseph lived in Nazareth, and it was the time for the census. We've all experienced census. But at that time, you had to go back to your city of your heritage. Now, Joseph was of the heritage of David, and Bethlehem was the city of David, so they needed to travel from Nazareth to Bethlehem on a donkey, fully pregnant. Women, do you think this is going to be an easy journey? It's a long road, but they did it because they had to do it. Now, how are our feelings? What happens to us when we've had a difficult journey and then we arrive where we need to go and there's no room in the inn because everyone's come back to town. The hotel's full. And you give your birth to your baby in the manger because the animals move aside and give a little space for the baby Jesus. This is wonderful. And then this is the metaphysical interpretation I came at when I did the study. Awakening from selfishness, we turn to our Christ consciousness to infuse pure thought into a new way of living. So, unraveling this a little bit, that selfishness is our small mind. It's when we get caught up in duress and challenge and depression and sadness and grief, which is all part of living. But when we want to awaken from that small mind, we turn to that infinite Christ consciousness, that light that's always present within us. And that brings us to a place where we're able to receive guidance from God, that pure thought. And lo, we are experiencing a new life right then. To be able to, right now, it's not going to come someday. We can awake and renew and live a new life right now. Now, from that Advent booklet, A Christmas to Remember, Reverend Teresa Burton says this Christmas season comes bearing an unlikely but hard-earned gift. The more hardships we endured, the longer we waited, the more creatively we coped, the more we grew in faith. Now, we've experienced huge challenge in the past years plus. This global pandemic, political unrest, there's been change and challenge and death and loss and not getting to do things the way we want to do them. We've had to Zoom, we've had to shelter in place, we've had to do a whole bunch of stuff that we weren't prepared to do. And yet, we've done them. And creatively, we've opened ourselves to a journey of faith, knowing we don't know how this is all going to work out, but we know it's going to work out. We know that there's compassion, there's working together, there's extending ourselves out to our friends and our family in a new and different way. And we will survive. We are surviving. We're thriving in faith. In fact, we're standing in faith. Now, Charles Fillmore was co-founder of Unity, and I love this explanation. He says, hope is a quality of sense mind because it's subject to time. Whereas faith is the certain knowledge that our good is ours right now. It is of God, and it goes beyond space and time. So hope is an important part of our journey, because when we're facing challenge, when we're facing loss, when we're facing despair, when we're facing chaos, we grab a hold of whatever hope we can. Sometimes it's that little light, that crack of hope that sustains us, reminds us to breathe a little more. Are you familiar with that? But hope has a beginning, middle, and end, because hope is set on a timeline. If we just get through this, when I just get through this, I open myself, and the hope guides us to our faith. Now, faith is that divine quality we know with no uncertainty, with absolute definite knowing that it is right now. Now, there are things that we hold in faith. And when we hold it in faith, it comes to us. With all we needed to do was just decide what we wanted to put our faith into. St. Augustine is a great theologian, and I love this passage. Faith is to believe what you do not see. The reward of this faith is to see what you believe. And that's the miracle of it. So you want something. You want something that's not present yet, but you know it's coming. Now, our wonderful Kelly and Ron Bretsky here have this dream, this vision of moving to the Pacific Northwest. Now, they haven't done it yet. They're still here. But we can join with them by seeing the amazing home that they're going to move into, and see how they're easily preparing and making the way to achieve their dream. We can all feel, if we just extend our faith into it, we can join with theirs and see the beautiful home and it all working out just how it's supposed to be. Now, it doesn't have to be a big move across the country. It could be have the faith that we're going to have the energy to do what we need to do today. Or the faith that we're going to sit down and we're going to practice our prayer and meditation practice today. There's faith in how we nurture our children, our grandchildren. Faith, how we see, okay, I can already see 2022 coming, and I'm extending my faith that I'm going to have everything I need to do whatever I need to do right now. It's beautiful that when we extend our faith into the unknown, we're already able to see it, to feel it, to smell it, to imagine it and dream it and create it. It's part of the co-creation process. And it is standing in faith. Turning back to Charles Fillmore, he says that it is when faith is exercised deep in spiritual consciousness that we find its right place and under divine law without variation or disappointment. It brings results that are seemingly miraculous. This is why this is such an important part of our Advent journey. And that metaphysical understanding where we can at any time awaken from living small. We can awaken from selfishness and doubt to a much bigger life. One where we're in community, where we're open to guidance from God and that grace of Christ consciousness that allows us to sustain and grow through whatever we need to face. This life isn't for the faint of heart. Life is sometimes quite challenging, but it's rich beyond measure, and we have the tool of faith where we can set our perception of what we want and then begin to fill it with our belief and our knowing whatever we want is in God. And we love that. Thank you.
Step out on the water, release your faith. Every step is stronger. Step out on the water.